Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something. You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal!
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing, is a science place, is a scientific fact that we're all up in your face. It is time, once again, for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it, and additionally, welcome to it. Special episode for you tonight. I got two of the cats from... Cats? What am I, a jazz guy from like the 50s? From Six Finger Satellite. Jay and Rick are coming on. How freaking cool is that? Answer, pretty cool. We're here to talk about the reissue by Sub Pop of The Pigeon is the Most Popular Bird, as well as the rest of their fantastic and storied discography. So, yeah, I'm really excited for that, and can't wait to talk to those guys. Should be great. I am a huge fan of Six Finger Satellite. I've been a huge fan of theirs for many, many years, and it's honestly a pleasure. So, very excited for that. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Of course, welcome to Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. I am your host, Conan Neutron. I'm a rock and roll lifer that's been touring and recording for 23 years, most known for the band Conan Neutron's Secret Friends. Music is a huge part of my life, and I use the format of this very long-running podcast to talk about music with musicians whose work I enjoy and respect, but who may not be household names. This is episode 342. If this is your first time listening to the show, archives are available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding, at protonicreversal.com. However, if you want to support the show and get episodes sooner, $1 a month at patreon.com/protonicreversal will achieve that goal. And if you like the show or even just a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share around on the old internet there, and even leave a review. All that helps people find the show. And it's just a darn nice thing to do. It really is. It's a darn nice thing to do. How nice is it? It's darn nice. I'm very pleased to welcome, at this moment in time, Rick and Jay from Six Finger Satellite. How you doing, gentlemen?
Hey.
What's happening?
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. This sounds great, by the way. I've heard this record a lot over the years. This is the one that I came in on with you guys, and I've heard it in the ever-popular dubbed on a cassette medium. I've heard it on like the CD that I had. Never have I heard it on vinyl, and this remaster it really brings out a lot of awesome.
When we originally recorded this record, we really specifically made it for vinyl. You know, we had two 45 RPM, 12-inch discs that went in the original pressing, which we were able to do with the reissue, which was awesome. And I mean, it sounds a lot beefier, let's say.
It's got a lot more oomph, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. When I first listened to the test pressing, I could really hear a lot of Kurt Niemann's bass playing, like really kind of poking out, which was kind of awesome, you know.
Yeah, is it? So, and first of all, and Jay, welcome aboard.
Thanks.
Well. Good to see you. Yeah,
I'm on some weird delay.
Yeah.
My video.
There you go.
That looks good. Keep it going, man.
Yeah, keep your enemies guessing is what I say. Apparently, and also keep your guests guessing. So it's follow your bliss. Is it kind of wild to revisit that material, being that it was from so far back? I mean, Six Finger Satellite, you have Severe Exposure, you have Paranormalized, you have Law of Ruins. Like, there's this whole catalog, and it's almost, this is almost baby pictures to a certain. Well, I guess that would be Weapon, right? But it's been a while, so if you go back to it, like, is it as you remember it? Or are you finding things that's like, oh yeah, especially with all like the interstitials, because that's something that I think that other than Thinking Flowers Union and that one Fugazi record, I can't think of many bands that did that. And to me, the interstitials were just as important as the songs.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff just brought me right back to the time and place that we did it. As far as the interstitial stuff went, I mean, that was a huge Chrome influence that we were just trying to really push to the fore as quick and as dirty as we could, and that's how we incorporated it into the record, was with those little bits in between.
See, and for me, I heard y'all before I heard Half Machine Lip Moves and Alien Soundtrack. So, but then I was like, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah.
There's a few similarities.
Yeah, and yeah, a little bit. But what I liked about Pigeon is that at the time, there was no bands really doing that. I mean, I guess, Brainiac was doing like their thing. That's probably the closest thing I could think of, but it wasn't that close. I mean, it wasn't. I didn't even like listen to like Cabaret Voltaire or anything until like later, but like I feel like this one is like your most nervy, Gang of Four-y kind of like, but aggressive. And I think that it actually has aged rather well because of that. So going back in time, the old Wayback Machine, can you give me sort of the breakdown of how it goes from Weapon, which is very different, into this? And there goes Jay.
And there goes Jay. Weapon into this. Well, there was an entire lost set that we had written after the Weapon stuff. That is out there in YouTube land somewhere. A bunch of songs that we never recorded. Then we lost our bass player, Chris Dixon.
Right. And
gained Kurt Niemand, and then stuff started to kind of go into a more. We were listening to a lot of Devo and Chrome.
No.
And we were just trying to steer the bus a little bit more than just turn the Marshalls up and start flinging the hair around and go balls to the wall like everybody else was doing at the time. Which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a lot of great bands from that point in time. But there was also a lot of mediocre kind of crap.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's 93, right? That Pigeon came out. So like, Nirvana's still a thing. Like that's like,
Yeah. I mean, we owe them a great debt because they pretty much financed our career on Sub Pop. So
Exactly.
Thank you, everybody in Nirvana.
Exactly.
So it's weird to think about, but I just remember like the imagery for Six Finger Satellite was so like you referenced Devo and like almost in that same way, sort of mission centric oblique, meaning that like I couldn't tell you what any of you guys look like until I saw you. Basically, I mean, like I don't know, they look like robots or aliens or like 50s sci-fi or like, who knows. Which is an aesthetic decision that basically goes completely against like what most bands at the time seemed to be doing. So was that a reaction to that, or was that just sort of like, oh, let's create this world around ourselves and damn the torpedoes?
Who me? Yeah, I think so. Definitely. I mean, it's also like thinking about like early '90s. We're out of Providence. I mean, college town with a lot of like, we were decidedly not like a lot of the other music there. And I think we just did our thing. And I think the things that we liked and the music that we liked and the kind of the records and the bands that we kind of studied were kind of lent themselves to that. So, I don't know if it was a reaction to just kind of the way we wanted to do it.
And then how you did it, and I'm thinking about the imagery with like the was it the Moog Liberations, right, and the keytars and all that. Like,
Yeah.
look, there's a bar near where I'm at that has like a keytar neon sign that says Coors on it, which I'm like, wow, if that isn't proof of devolution or something, I don't know. So but like that was not the case in '93.
Yeah. Well, that was, and those came a little bit after.
Keytar was a word in '93.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And those things were not, those liberations were not like, they weren't controllers. They were full-on synths that you wore on your leg, sweat all over, and didn't work very well.
Yeah, because the whole thing is like, oh well, why should the lead guitarist like have all the fun? Here, you can do your crazy keyboard stuff on this. Yeah, but can you?
No.
Can you though? Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure about that?
Well,
yeah.
The kind of funny thing was at the time, John had a Travis Bean, which was a pretty hefty piece of koa in aluminum.
Yeah.
But then Jay had the Liberation, which was, I want to say 25 to 30 pounds at least. I mean, that thing was heavy as shit.
You've basically got a full keyboard strapped to you, more or less, right? I mean, like there's no.
And it was very fickle.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive the wings were kind of made of wood.
Yeah.
Like, they were wood. It was wood.
Yeah.
It was wood. It was heavy.
It was
we toured a lot, and we toured a lot in the summer, and it was like they were awful.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's sound check. You'd be like, oh, it sounds pretty good, and then you get on stage at 1 a.m, like
in Texas,
in Texas with after a night of preparation for the set, and you turn this thing on, it would just like sound like you're strangling a cat. It's like never in tune, awful.
Well, and is it like, do you kick yourself decision-wise for being like, God, why?
No, it
Why
wasn't really about.
No, you just continue.
You just play it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it sounds like. It just,
People that night were just like, Jay's synth playing was so fucking crazy, man.
So out there.
He was doing like Sun Ra shit, and Jay's just like, I don't know, man.
Just trying to make it work.
Bad equipment, and atmospheric conditions. Yeah.
Well, and I think that it's notable to me that like you guys shared a lot of bills with like-minded bands, but the like-minded bands didn't necessarily sound like you guys. Was that something that like you kind of found your people early on as a band, or did it kind of take a little bit of just getting out there and seeing what kind of other weirdos are out in the U.S.? And
It took a while. I think it took a while. I mean, I think when we first, this is like our first full length for Sub Pop, and I think it kind of came out of left field for them a little bit. And then, we were just, we're on like the biggest independent label in the country, and even pre-internet, there was still like this, a little bit of this kind of machine behind you, you're like on tour and you had label support and all this stuff. So we were going out with like, touring with some fellow Sub Pop bands, of which we were not like most of them.
Yeah.
So we kind of figured out how to tour. We kind of figured out what we liked and what we didn't like. And, we went on some tours that were like, learning experiences to say the least, and some tours that were just like hell. And then, I think later on we kind of figured out a couple things, and, how to go on the road and, come home with some money in your pocket, and how to travel like a little leaner. And then, at the same time, we started booking, with some different folks, and we found some bands we liked, and we had kind of built some relationships, and it just kind of fell into place, I think.
Yeah. And, I mean, the first time I heard you guys I think it was Tool of the Man, Poster Children. Somebody is like wearing one of your shirts. I was like, wow, that's a cool looking shirt. And that's a neat sounding band name. Let me go down to the record store and buy this record Sound Unheard.
It worked. Nice.
It worked. We got them.
Which nobody does anymore. Yeah, exactly.
You're one of the 10 people who bought it.
For what it's worth, yeah. But it's also like, at the time, nobody was really doing that visual aesthetic too. Like I feel like there's a lot of bands that kind of do that now, and I feel like there's whole like genres of music that sort of like make sort of passing oblique references to it. You know, I'm thinking, and then like not just that, but like this 80s neon fetishization, which is like, okay, fine. Like everybody wants to look like Miami Vice now. Sure, that's not a big deal. But I feel like you guys were going into like the weird like monster movie of the week, kind of darker side of it, which became even more pronounced as the records went on. Like, and I'm thinking of even after. Well, I suppose it would be a Machine Cuisine first before you got into Severe Exposure.
Right.
So again, the visual aesthetic there was the idea like, hey, we're going to change up what this looks like, because it's not like you were a goofy band necessarily. Like you guys were incredibly serious at what you were doing. But I think there's just an ingrained, when you see certain imagery, you think of like, oh, you know, like what is it? I'm trying to think of, was it Grandpa Al from you know, the movie host Elvira and all that.
So B movie.
Yeah, the B movie aesthetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at. And then I felt like that. Well, first of all, I mean, I think Machine Cuisine is interesting of itself, and I want to speak about that. But between Pigeon and Severe Exposure, like what happens? A lot of things happen, but like what all happens between then? I guess take that any of those things in any order you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with like
happened.
Yeah,
exactly.
A lot of life, and a lot of the band's life happens in that time period. But I think from the outside perspective, just because you guys, look, this is pre-social media. You know, like it was sort of like, oh, it was amazing if a band had a website. You know, let alone like this instant communication that everyone's just gotten used to now. That like by the time you get to Severe Exposure, I mean, it's sort of like, oh, whoa, this is crazy. Like the whole presentation is different. Like it's like, you know, it's wild.
I mean, I think with the we spent so like the making and the writing for that for the Pigeon was so like intense. Like we were all living together in a house,
right,
and practicing a ton, and the writing was it was very driven and very, very focused. And I think we got to the recording and it was very like intense, and you know the recording session was a little crazy in itself. I had so then we come out with this with these songs, and I think the aesthetic in a certain sense maybe was a little secondary. I think we were kind of like we had this idea for the artwork, and we're going to try this, and it kind of came together, and it was cool, right? We had this idea to release 2 EPs, and I think it was maybe not as fully thought out. And I think as we moved along, like the music and the aesthetic just started to get a little closer together,
right? And
we were able to execute it. We were able to execute things, I think, a little more seamlessly, and I think the band's identity got, like the songs and the identity, they kind of tie closer together. But yeah, I mean, I just think it seemed like I think like visually, it just seemed like design wise, it seemed to get maybe a little bit easier, a little bit more focused. I don't know if Rick, if you agree with that.
No, I do. I did.
Yeah.
I think though a driving thing behind that though was, we all really enjoyed reading Philip K. Dick novels at the time. Rudy Rucker. What's the other guy? Jeter.
KW Jeter.
Rudy Rucker. I think I said Rudy Rucker. Anyway.
So nice you said it twice.
That kind of stuff was definitely in our conversations and stuff like that. And the whole sci-fi vibe, I think everybody kind of got behind. I mean, we're a bunch of white nerds kind of in our 20s. I mean, that's like sci-fi and white nerds. Right?
Yeah, no one's pulling a Chris Cornell and going shirtless on the cover or something, right? Like it's not.
Oh, no,
I offered, but it was vetoed.
The first photo we submitted for the Weapon EP though it was a full frontal nude portrait of all 5 of us.
Fantastic.
And we
Great
submitted that to Sub Pop. Pretty much our first communication with
We're like,
the label.
like,
And we're like, we
do you
really
think?
want these. And they were like, no.
not that idea.
So that didn't even make it onto like the insert. Probably just as well.
Yeah, thank
Might
you.
not have aged so well.
Was Sub
bad
Pop
idea.
kind of on board with your antics and sort of bratty sci-fi presentation from the beginning? Was it like because again, this is the kind of thing that I think that people, in the absence of any actual information, people just seem to make stuff up. Sometimes, like I originally heard of Weapon because I heard Bird first. That it was like, oh yeah, they made this EP to trick Sub Pop into signing them so that they could put out what they really wanted. I'm like, I'm not sure if that's. This is back when conspiracy theories were fun, by the way. Anyway, sorry.
Right. When misinformation was just like a joke or
like somebody just had a theory. And, okay.
Yeah, not overthrowing governments. But yeah, anyway, I mean, you can take that story however you want. But what was the question?
So, was Sub Pop generally on board just from the beginning with all your wild antics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Once we got once Sub Pop got Jeff Kleinsmith, the art director there.
Yeah.
He really kind of pushed a lot of our ideas, into the just way above and beyond what we expected. I mean, we would give him a lot of design ideas, sketches, or direction and stuff, and then whatever he came up with, it would usually be a few different copies, but we picked the ones that were great. So he really made a lot of that stuff look great.
Yeah, and that's something that I think like that again, that design aesthetic, which was very inexorably tied with the band, and in a positive way, where like it's again, it looked kind of mysterious, and the sci-fi seemed to get like a little bit like darker and crazier as time went on as well, and that's that seemed to fit the music, like and it was interesting to me too, going back and then hearing what you guys were doing with Machine Cuisine. Was this sort of like, oh, cool. I can kind of see where this got sort of wrapped into everything. I know there was a couple pretty big changes post Pigeon. So James comes in for Severe Exposure, right? Peter's out and Kurt was not around anymore, correct?
Right. Yep. They were both gone, and then we kind of restructured. Well, right out of the Pigeon, we restructured as a 3-piece electronic unit.
Power trio.
Power trio, electronic
power electronics trio, yeah.
With a bunch of really shifty vintage synths, and some even shiftier PV stacks of amps.
Yeah,
when you mean maximum coolness and maximum unreliability at the same time.
Well, it was interesting because we started off. We decided it was like the three of us. So we decided we were going to just do a synth thing. And at one point, like it was like the three of us standing around facing each other with keyboards, kind of like, and it was all this like it was very like I don't know, early craft work.
Yeah, I was gonna say very craft work,
very kind of noodly. And then we finally decided, like I think I said, like I'm not going to play anything. I'm just going to sing.
Yeah.
And Rick handled like the rhythm section, like the drum machines, and the low end. And John kind of handled the rhythm guitar. What would be the guitar? We just set up like a trio, and we had when we had, I mean, literally every amp that we owned in the cabinet.
Yeah.
Kind of just we would make this wall of stuff and running like the Ace Tone drum machine and the drumulator and the Rogue as the bass and whatever else we had, and we just set it up and play like we were trying to write rock songs. And people would come and see us. People would come see us practice, and people would be like, "What are you guys doing? Like,
what are you doing?
What's happened? What's happened to you?
Is this the same band? What's happening?" Yeah.
I mean, and we had literally like we had come back from tour, the last leg of the Pigeon tour, and we played in Providence as that 5-piece, and we had just been on the road for like I don't know, 5 months or something, and it was just like super tight, and it was just super edgy, and the band was just very fragile, and we played this set in Providence, and think it was probably a little scary to people who knew us and loved us. And then like the band kind of just like imploded a bit. And then like, 4 months later we come back and we play the show as an electronic 3-piece and everybody comes to the show. And it was probably one of the hardest things we ever played. It was one of the hardest times ever. I think we finished the set. We were just like, what the?
Yeah.
It was just
I've never heard so much silence between songs before. And believe me, I've played a lot of shows where there was silence between songs.
And the club we played,
like
it just
deafeningly silent.
It didn't have like a big PA, and if you were so used to throwing so much of the volume was from the stage.
Sure, yeah, stage.
And we just didn't have it behind us, and you were just like, come on, PB.
Yeah, I mean the reason why something like Kraftwerk works live is because they have this like huge booming sound system where you just like feel it in your gut.
We had none of that.
Yeah.
No, we had really underpowered cabinets and PV amplifiers and like
really hard
70s power amps.
Right.
We played 2 shows. Oh, we had bought
them up in a cross, didn't we?
Yes.
We set the cabinets up in a cross. It was hilarious.
We played two shows.
Oh
we played the show in Providence, and then we went the next night. We played in Boston, and the Boston show was much better. The club was, it wasn't like the place we played was very kind of cavernous, so the sound didn't really travel. And the next place we played, it was a million times better. Actually, I think John Poneman came. Yeah, I think John Poneman came to see us.
The one that with the better sound.
We played 2 electronic shows.
That was the show we met James at.
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Well, James had done art had done the art direction for the split single with Green Magnet School.
The Green Magnet School split.
So we met him before that.
Yes,
we did.
We met before that.
I have that upstairs.
My bad.
With my 7 inches.
My bad.
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Absolutely.
It was fun.
Yep. And then we got James came in the fold. And,
Okay, so logistical question: Cross? How did you get it? Was it like on a board? Like what? How did you?
No,
we had some extended
we had a Dan Electro. We had a Dan Electro, big Dan Electro cabinet, and then we had the Electro Voice horn, the 4, 6, whatever it was. It was a long old style.
Okay, all right.
PA cabinet. We just laid it across the top, and then we had a small 2x something, and we put it on top, and it was just like this.
Okay, yeah.
Crucifix of underpowered electronics.
Here you go, you animals.
Danger.
Here come the keyboards. Yeah. All right. So you played 2 shows in this formation, and the idea is, hey, maybe we can do something else that is not this exactly. Get across these ideas in a different way.
I think we were raring to get more into, rocking stuff like with real drums and guitars, or not necessarily guitars, but guitars and synths. Because the synth carryover was definitely from the Machine Cuisine EP.
And there was a lot of like home recording going on, a lot of board tracking that we were doing on the side, and it was always synth. It was a ton of synth, and we did it all the time.
And
I would say that informed a lot of that. I think that was as important to Severe Exposure as Machine Cuisine, in my opinion.
When does the parlor come into the picture?
Oh, that was Severe Exposure.
Yeah,
that was the first one we recorded there.
Yeah,
we had rehearsal spaces in that building, and then I think when we got our 3-record contract with Sub Pop at the time, cha-ching, which was still,
I think
Severe
Exposure. Yeah.
But when we got the money for that, we decided we wanted to kind of DIY it, and we had done 4-track recording by ourselves, and we were very interested in recording. We picked a lot of people's heads about it, so we decided to just do it, with very little information. especially since there was no internet. A lot of it was.
Yeah, kids these days, like people, and for the younger listeners of the audience, like this whole like treasure trove information of recording and just being able to do it on literally on your phone or something, not available. That was not something that was available.
I was talking to a friend of mine about the plugins and stuff that are available now, and just the quality that you can get out of just even a phone recording.
It's amazing.
And then you think back on 4-track cassette with little condenser microphone.
I got mine over there.
I just remember I don't know how many practice tapes I have where we just have these great practices, and I'd have a box set up in the corner of recording it, and I'd run home to listen to it, and it would be
just like garbage,
destroyed.
Absolute trash,
lost to time.
Yeah, completely just decimated. Just one bar if you were to look at it. And,
exactly. I mean, we took our advance, and instead of spending it to go to record,
you bought recording equipment with it, basically.
We bought
right?
equipment, and we took care of
we built out a space into a studio. Yeah,
a lot of trips to
which we updated. We updated after Severe Exposure. We updated it for the next record.
Yeah.
And then right before Law Ruins, we really made it sweet. Went kind of pro, semi-pro.
Yeah, so and I think Severe Exposure is kind of the ones where it's there's a fusion of this more synthy and more heavy guitar stuff for you guys, and I mean, I remember seeing on VHS a video of Parlor Games, I think, if I remember right. That was my friend Bob showed me, and I was like, wow, this is great. And then I was like, oh, it's that band with the sci-fi shirt. And there you go. And I feel like that as a mission statement record, it's a little more meaner to a certain degree, I guess, but definitely that was 95 or so. I don't think once again, there wasn't really anything that sounded quite like that at the time, but it definitely if you like pop group, if you like Gang of Four or whatever, then there's certainly frame of references, but that one, all the songs are pretty concise. I think that
it's 30. I think the record's 30 minutes long.
That was that. Yeah, it's a short one. That was interesting because we did a show. We had some material, almost an entire set, initially with James Apt before Severe Exposure, and we played a bunch of shows with it. We may have done I don't think we toured with it yet. We just did some maybe East Coast shows.
Yeah. And
then we went out to Chicago and did the Pine Tar 406 show with, Shellac and MX80. And,
yeah.
There was all sorts of, we had a bunch of friends out there. So we played the set, which was, I think we blew the power once or twice because we were maybe the first or second band on the bill that kind of drew some juice. So the set was kind of, here and there, but we had a lot of mid-tempo songs. We were listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin.
Nice.
So we come out and we're doing this stuff and whatever. It was good. I like those songs, but I remember some of the feedback we got was maybe tighten some stuff up and maybe pick up the tempos a little bit.
Yeah.
And so when we went back to Providence and started up with new stuff, we definitely took that into consideration and kind of ratcheted the shit up a bit.
Yeah, and we made some gear decisions too. I think we also made some gear decisions about getting some SVT, investing in better equipment and that kind of stuff, but we're still kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, and that's it's a very forceful record, but it's weirdly it's almost got a party atmosphere, but a very specific it's a very specific kind of party. But I like that it's almost some of the synth stuff could almost be video game centric at the time, which again now is a whole thing, but at the time it was what? And I'm also thinking of things like Board the Bus and Simian Fever, where there's like almost like, is this a skit? Like what's happening right now? Like, is this like a Dr. Dre record or something? I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody was doing that in rock records. You know, works.
No, I mean, we were definitely listening to that Dr. Dre record at the time.
It worked.
You know.
Yeah.
And it worked, you know. I mean, there was
totally
a few,
works.
you know, some of it was found sound, some of it was, you know, taken from film soundtrack.
Yeah.
You know, some of it was DIY. I mean, you know, there was a whole smorgasbord of stuff in there. But it worked in the context of the record, you know.
And it makes for a weird hook, you know, for the right kind of nerd, myself. You know, where it's like you get, you know, there's trouble in the monkey house. Yeah, you know, like it's like, oh, okay, all right. And the other man I can think of that like was doing anything along those lines was like Man or Astro Man, and they were, you know, just starting to get into that. And like again, the same sort of deal where you almost start thinking of some of these like samples or pseudo samples, whatever you want to call them, as like the hook to the song. Or the intro, you know, like you like think of automatically. So, but again, it's still a very concise record. You know, it barely clears like 30. It's like 33 minutes or something along those lines, right? Like it's. I mean, it's a bangs
Get
hard.
in, get out.
Yeah. And so it was because there was too many Led Zeppelin jams before that. Is that why?
No, because, you know, I mean, always leave them wanting more, you know. That's a good showbiz kind of thing that we did in the live thing. We always played short live sets. We rarely came out and did encores. You know, and it was always short. Just hit it, quit it, get in, get out. Don't waste anybody's time. You know, Jam Econo. You know, the Mike Watt and the whole Minutemen shit was on our minds at the time. You know,
absolutely.
all the SST stuff. Definitely Big Black. You know, so yeah, it was certainly urgent.
Really cool cover too. Like, and in the age of like, people have to remember around comic books around that time. That's when they were starting to get into like the gimmicky like. Oh, this one's the variant edition, and this one's got holographics cover, and this and that. And so, like, first thing I thought when I saw that, again, in a record store, dating myself here, is I was like, whoa, that looks like one of those, like, crazy first issue X-Men or something along those lines. With, like, it was very eye-catching cover. Back when that meant something.
Apparently very costly to manufacture also.
And award-winning. I think Kleinsmith won an award for it.
Really? Okay,
I
cool.
think he won a design award. I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Probably didn't win an award from the accounting department, but yeah.
No, well, they didn't have one then.
Yeah, exactly.
Save your receipts in a shoebox.
I can't remember who
the
made
Golden
the
Abacus.
decision.
What would that award be? I don't know what that award would be. But anyway, sorry. Yeah, go Rick.
I don't know who made the decision on you know, going with the gold foil at Sub Pop. But I seem to remember they got a little bit of flack for pushing it through because it was kind of expensive, you know. So I mean,
it looks cool as hell.
It looks awesome. I'm praying that if we do the Severe Exposure reissue in 2 years, maybe for the 30th, that we can do the artwork justice and do the foil cover.
The nice thing is you can charge more, and people are less inclined to like squawk about it now.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Fair enough. But no, I mean, like it's an audacious. Like, look, you're not gonna. It catches the eye, right? If you're walking back, like, whoa, what is that? That's crazy.
It came out fantastic. Yeah, it was a weird idea. You know, that we had that. The execution was we all dressed in opposite colors. Yeah. We painted our faces black made everything else white, you know, and then took a black and white photo, reversed that image. So it was almost like a reverse negative.
Yeah.
And then when they printed that onto the gold foil, it just really made it insane, you know. But there was a direct influence on the chrome red exposure.
Oh, sure. Again, which I found out about
that was
way
just,
afterwards, but yeah.
Yeah, but that was like, I mean, there was so much Chrome stuff that we were
Yeah.
so wrapped up in, that we were just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I've had Helios on this show, and it was quite the ride. Let me tell you. That guy,
yeah.
that guy is on his own plane, and
A friend of mine was emailing with him back and forth, and I heard some of the stuff, and it was almost like you had to decipher.
yeah, I think I might have said in the show notes that you might get a contact high after listening to the episode, but peace and love. One of the most original dudes and guitar players ever.
Yeah.
We owe a great debt to those guys, that's for sure.
Yeah, is that clarinet that's on there? That's that kind of wild, like undetermined woodwind instrument.
On what?
In Severe Exposure. Actually, I'm trying to remember what the song is now. I don't have it in front of me, but I always wonder if that was like a what manner of like band nerd instrument that was. And my guess is clarinet.
Could have been. We had clarinet. We had alto sax.
The sax, I think I got. So
I think this clarinet on Paranormalized.
Paranormalized, yeah.
Okay. Well,
I don't know if there's any woodwinds on. Woodwinds.
Maybe I'm mixing. Maybe I might be mixing them up. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
A lot of folks in the comments giving props. Longtime fan for seeing you guys on both Beavis and Butthead and 120 minutes. So there you go. If you're gonna get the 90s check marks, then
that was pretty. Yeah, the Beavis and Butthead thing was pretty awesome.
Over here.
Yeah, that's got that's a that's kind of like a coup in a way. Like I mean
that. That was somebody at Sub Pop. I think. I don't know. I'm not sure how that whole thing transpired, but what a surprise! I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, my friend and bandmate has like all the old Beavis and Butt. I guess they're now available for streaming, so this isn't as exciting. But he's got them all like taped, and I remember we were watching one of them. I was like, oh crap, it's a Six Finger Satellite song. I forgot about that. Sitting alongside like some of the most just like baffling 90s bands you ever saw in the entire world. So. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been the Paranormalized tour that I finally saw you guys play. It was with Jesus Lizard in San Francisco, and yeah, I think it probably would have been like Paranormalized after that. So you got the Parlor Games video, which is the one that's in Beavis and Butthead, if I remember correctly.
That was done by our friend Guy Benoit, by the way.
Right.
Great filmmaker.
Who's done a bunch of stuff. Hydrogen Terrors, right?
Yep. Von Ryan's Express.
Yeah.
Which was a Sub Pop 7-inch.
That's right. So I feel like Severe Exposure's got like stuff like Place Where Humans Go and stuff like that, where it's sort of like the more like kind of like moody, synthy, kind of stuff that I think you guys kind of leaned into even more with when you got to Paranormalized, which again, another great cover. And I love that, if I remember correctly, and it's been a while, the CD had like the record, but it was like folded up, so you could kind of see a different head on each one. This is how I'm remembering it. I don't remember if this is actually the case.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great usage of the CD format. So I was like, oh, cool. So you get like the same thing, and you could like look at it, but you could like choose which head you want to have on the front if you felt so inclined, which I thought was pretty impressive.
Like the Kiss solo record.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You can be back in the New York groove, man.
Actually, Jay stole a lyric from that song on what was the song? On Severe Exposure. Wicked lady at my side needs relief. Back in the New York groove.
Yeah, I
in my Cadillac. Wicked lady at my side says, "Where are we?"
Yeah,
that's where that's from. I remember.
That's fantastic. I and you know what? Back in the New York groove's a pretty good song, man. like I don't.
Oh hell yeah!
I don't think the whole Ace Frehley solo thing. It's like, all right, you got about an EP here, but but Back in the New York groove, that's a total jam. Although I'd be like, I play it for people like, this is the guy from Kiss. And it's like, yeah, it's like a 70s boogie song, man.
I'm not that big of a Kiss fan, but I love the Ace Frehley Kiss songs.
Yeah. No, there's
those things are amazing.
I know some dudes in SF who did a band called Frehley's Vomit that was just Ace Frehley solo songs and Frehley's Comet songs, and everybody dressed like Ace. It was commitment to the bit, I'll tell you that much. And also a 1,000-mile walk in the desert for an ice cream cone, I'm sure. But Clone Theory, though. Tell me about Clone Theory, because that came out on Load, if I remember right, between Sphere Exposure and Paranormalized. When was that recorded? Was that around the same time?
That was right before
After.
Paranormalized.
Yeah.
Before
right.
Paranormalized. Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, it was after Severe
Was it?
Exposure, before Paranormalized. Yep. Yeah, it was like we had a little bit of downtime, and I'm pretty sure we had the material for
Did a couple songs. Yeah.
Paranormalized, and then we also had material that we were kind of experimenting with arrangement-wise and whatnot.
Mhm.
Our friend Ben McCosker, who ran Load at the time, I'm not sure who lined it up, but we decided to do that EP with him, and it was a real casual kind of recording session. The material was still kind of loose, but I love that record. That
I do
record
too.
is
Yeah, it's a cool record.
really it really breathes, I think, and captures kind of us playing live in the studio. Some of that groove, I think, spills over into the Law of Ruins electronic stuff.
I can see that.
I don't want to say jammy, but it was a little jammy. But still, we still had the heavy stuff on the Clone Theory EP.
Okay, so was it named for the guitar pedal, the general concept, or the algebra thing?
I think it came from the Electro-Harmonics pedal.
Yeah, because that's a great pedal. Because I'm glad to hear that, because that's why I bought one.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying
Oh,
that.
great.
I would feel like really foolish. Someone's like, no, it's algebra. I'm like, hey, get away, nerd.
Man, Jay, we get more residuals from that Electro-Harmonics reference.
Exactly. I know, that's good, man.
More fractions of 1/100 of a cent.
Yeah, exactly. You got at least 0.001 cent out of me. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Which is about the same as what you get from Spotify. Boom. God, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. No comment.
So, okay, so Paranormalized, right? The third album, again, you got the heads, which is cool. That's a cool looking cover as well. Definitely. Again, catches the eye. And also not a very long record either. And you start off, you get, 30 Lashes, greatest hit. Like, you come out swinging on that one. Coke and Mirrors is the one that kind of stands out, though, of just being like, oh, here's like the dance song. Right on. And it doesn't seem ill-fitting, but the first time I heard it, it was surprising. I'm like, oh, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
So how did that come to pass?
That song?
Yeah. The whole record, really. But, like...
The whole record was a weird kind of journey, man.
Tell me about it. It's a long-form show, brother.
A lot of it had to do with the gear that we had, or the gear that we had just got. John McClane just got one of those rolling GR 707s, maybe, the kind of funky triangle guitar with the handle on it, guitar synth, which a lot of the songs on Paranormalized were recorded on.
Right.
And it had a floating like Kahler tremolo on it with the locking thing, and it was just a nightmare to use live. But in the studio, it was great. So, we used it as a tool. I think a lot of the songs sounded amazing. I think did we just get the profit for that record?
Yeah,
too,
we had bought a bunch of gear on tour. I think we were also really wanted to get another album going after Severe Exposure.
Right.
And I think there was a little bit of where it was like, are we going to write Severe Exposure 2, or are we going to just do something different? And it was kind of like, in the spirit of the band was always let's just keep charging forward, doing different things, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that was part of it. I think some of those songs, like we recorded them, we wrote them and practiced them and recorded them pretty quickly. And some of them actually kind of took on a little life of their own after we played them live. They kind of became staples in the live set.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think they probably would have, I think if we had maybe given that record a little bit longer, it probably would have been a little different. Might have been a little bit more guitar centric and less synthy. But I think it was an effort to kind of, I mean, at the time too, it's like we just, we had toured behind Severe Exposure, and the tour, I think the touring was a little dissatisfying for us. So we're like, we want to get back out and, continue to play. So we just, at the time the logic was like, let's make another record. So we did it.
Yeah.
And, so we, and then was really around that time, Severe, Paranormal, that record came out. We started to find those bands that we were touring with. We started touring with Shellac. We started touring with Jesus Lizard. We toured with Trans Am, and we still had the Severe Exposure set. We had the Paranormalized set. We were touring with like-minded bands, and for a good year, 2 years, we were just kind of crushing it live.
Yeah, and playing with bands that maybe didn't sound exactly like you, but certainly were like-minded, right? I mean,
yeah, and just good crowds and a lot. It just got us out. It got us on the road a lot, and we became pretty efficient in terms of playing. And I think the band really started to gel in a lot of ways as a live unit. Yeah.
Yeah, playing on tour, especially with different bands, was, I mean, with each band that you would go out with, you would learn something specific from them, And again, I hate to keep saying this, but in the days before the internet,
which did exist, there was a world before.
This is how we got information. This is where we got, tips on gear. This amp sounds insane. I'm going to try to get an amp that sounds as insane as this one. I mean, it still kind of exists to a certain extent. I think it might be more fetishized for people who maybe collect music gear and don't do anything with
it was almost like you have to. I think about the old kung fu movies where you have to go climb the mountain and visit the guy at the top of the mountain to learn about it.
You kind of got to put in the work, and that was a lot of work, but we learned a lot of stuff. I mean, every band, every tour that we came back from, or every band that we shared a few bills with, at least for me, I came back a little wiser. And sometimes armed with a few dirty tricks to pull on other bands.
And what's crazy about those, you're talking about gears. I'm just thinking about the times that we live in. John didn't have any pedals,
which is crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
James used a rat pedal once in a while.
Yeah.
And I didn't use any pedals. Oh man, maybe we might have used the Big Muff on one of the synths.
Yeah.
To drive something, but for the most part, there wasn't a lot of, gear, so to speak, in the modern
fetishism.
sense.
Yeah. No, a lot of it was just very direct, very basic, very minimal, a continuation of focus it. Make it as whatever you want it to be in whichever direction, and make that the cornerstone of the sound that you want. That was a great thing, is we definitely pushed each other in different directions with volume, with especially with volume, with new gear, and kind of raising the bar with each other. That was kind of a cool thing with all of those lineups,
So was the idea at the time with Paranormalized just kind of okay, let's knock this out, get back on the road, and get back in front of people, kind of thing?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Did you? There's some love for the Massive Cocaine Seizure Human Operator single in the chat.
I see that,
which is something I had in my notes too. Was that recorded at the same time, or was that a different session?
All in that time.
Yeah.
I kind of lump it all together.
Yeah, like from
there was like, I
your
mean, I think about,
exposure
you think about these records, they were like, we recorded, the Pigeon's most popular bird in 93.
Yeah.
And we recorded, and then and we recorded Law of Ruins in 98.
Yep.
And we squeezed a lot of action into like 5 years.
Yeah, it was like Credence or something.
And a wide variety of sounds and like, a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, if Credence had guitars.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if you guys saw that. I don't know if you're Credence fans or not, but that documentary live thing that they did on one of the streaming things, really good.
Oh yeah,
I really enjoyed
just the old live footage from like '69 or something. Yeah,
but the thing
with some Booker T. Yeah,
the thing that got me is they're playing these huge shows, right? And John Fogerty has this coily cable that's like maybe 6 feet long. It's like, bro, you can afford a longer cable. You're on this gigantic stage. It's like it's so funny to me. I was like, wow, that's
that was great. The
to
dudes that just had the cable that went straight across
Just
to the amp. It didn't go down to the ground.
If somebody crosses the stage, they're gonna get like clotheslined, right? It was just like, what is happening? I think you were like the biggest rock and roll band in the world. Like, what are you doing?
They were making that shit up, man. There was definitely no book for that back then.
Yeah, nobody was like, hey, John, you can get a longer cable. Do you know that? You can afford it. You're getting paid a lot of money.
I'm not telling him. You tell him. I'm not telling him.
That's my job.
Make it custom.
Yeah. So Paranormalized. So the reason I bring up Coke and Mirrors is because like I feel like that song, if it had come out like 6 or 7 years later, look. Battles and Atlas. If somebody had told me I was like, oh, that's a great tune. Like somebody like, yeah, that's gonna be a huge hit. I'd be like, psh, no way, dude, no way. But there's a lot of things that were, and I feel like that was a example of, as much as I love the crazed falling down style aggression that comes along with like a lot of the other like guitar and synth stuff. That one could just be a dance floor jam, flat out.
Yeah, that's kind of, we kind of intended it to be that way. I mean, we're all very, I think, we were all very much into disco and stuff. I mean, we were always looking for like crazy old disco records on the road at record stores, along with like fall records and shit like that. But, the disco thing ran strong with us for sure, man. Yeah. I mean, I used and abused the disco beat. Yeah. the hi-hat, sup, man. Maybe too much. I don't know. but I mean, I love that shit, and I love Pill, and the pop group and stuff like that. So, that kind of stuff, Joy Division, for Christ's sake, I aped a bunch of beats from those records. So, the rhythm stuff was all totally disco based, and then the stuff that came after disco, so that song was really, I mean, we started playing it, and it it sounded so disco that it was just weird, but it sounded so good. We were like, well, we got kind of, you can't
like mix it with like Gloria Gaynor or something. Yeah, I mean, like it's flat out like absent of context, which I like the fact that you could sit that next to like Paralyzed by Normal Life or 30 Lashes, and then it's like, oh no, here's your dance break before the next assault. That's great.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool too, because I mean, it was certainly never a hit in any way, shape, or form, but it's kind of like those 70s records of like that one band that had that one amazing song, and then you listen to the rest of the record, and it's kind of like, meh.
Right. I have no idea who you're talking about. So. But first of all, how dare you? No, but I think it all sits very nicely, and it's interesting that it seemed like that one came together relatively quickly, but it's not as pronounced as between Paranormalized and Law of Ruins, because Law of Ruins is where I feel like, I mean, there's stuff that's flat out like almost krautrocky if not in sound, certainly in modus operandi, where stuff just. Yeah, this can just spread out. It's going to be as long as it needs to be. It's going to go where it needs to go. Was that like a purposeful decision with Law of Ruins?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I think the interesting thing about like a song like Coca Mirrors is like, yeah, it's this disco workout, but it's like 3 minutes long.
Yeah, it's still pretty succinct.
It's like there's no like extended, like you're not dancing very long to that thing.
Yeah. Although you could have done a dance remix and probably made a little money. But,
you probably
whatever.
could have something, right?
Yeah.
But I think moving into Law of Ruins, there was definitely like a push to get more guitar based songs in there.
Right.
But I think like when we wrote the songs for that, and then we did, there are some pieces in that record that are, kind of post-production edits, kind of like going back to that, like, cut and paste kind of approach that really gives that record some of that space. Yeah. I think some of the things like there are proper songs that are very structured. They're very much like, classic, ABC, whatever, verse, chorus kind of thing. And then there are these pieces that we, that we kind of inserted in there, and it kind of gives the record its kind of shape and its tone, I think, a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, it definitely stretches out in some cool ways.
Well, I mean, you got like just from the beginning, right? Like it's a slower start. Yeah. Like by the time you actually get going in Race Against Space, you gotta be like, wait, it's on, right? Did I turn it on? Okay, we're good. Okay.
Yeah.
But like it's that kind of record. Like I think there's only like 2 songs that are like under 4 minutes, I think, if I remember correctly. Like it's a ride.
Fivers.
I mean, we have like a I'll do a little plug here. We have like a Law of Ruins record coming out. Like it's all of our demos we did for the record.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
And then there's all the material that became some of those kind of incidental parts. I don't know what the term you used it earlier. What was the
interstitials?
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, that kind of thing. So, but there are some sections.
Interstitials.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. It's in tight. Where
interstitials.
They're showing Rick. Where there's the full versions of the things we played, and essentially like the last things that lineup recorded. And they're actually really, really quite cool. And I think it's interesting because it kind of nods towards, I think, where the band might have gone. There's like some electronics in there. There's some dub. There's maybe a little bit of dance going on. It was like very kind of like the next step for the group in my mind. And it just, some of that stuff just got chopped up and used in the record, but we have it in its full, like we played it once basically, So it's pretty cool. So it's coming out on this label called Limited Appeal out of Boston. It'll be out sometime.
That's a great label name.
sometime soon. It's only been in the works for a couple of years.
Nice. Well, I mean, Law of Ruin is also like that's the one that kind of reminds me of that you guys have done. It's the most like Stooges like in its way, also. Which isn't to say it sounds like the Stooges, but it has that sort of like approach. And wasn't expected at the time, but neither was the album, which by the way, the art on that is incredible. Like the clear with the it's like holy, how do they keep doing this? It's crazy.
James Apt was the kind of designer of that one.
He was the architect of that one. Yeah.
Yeah. He really came through on that. Him and Jeff Kleinsmith really nailed that one.
He had some good ideas. Yeah.
That really, and I like how it, takes the kind of sci-fi kind of image on those records and kind of, it's like the final stage of the sci-fi
the final
chrysalis,
form. Yeah.
It's like the clear, flat cube.
Yeah.
But, I wanted to say about Law of Ruins that the concept of that record was kind of like the Pigeon record, where we had a bunch of proper songs and then had interstitial parts between it,
Right.
So it was a bit of a nod to the Pigeon record.
Good point. Yeah, I agree.
Which is weird because, even though the Pigeon record wasn't the lineup with James Apt and John McClane,
yeah,
it kind of bookends
bookends
that
things in a
time
way.
frame
Sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe it bookends our time with Sub Pop Records. That's why it bookends things.
So
Anyway,
yeah, so that's got the well, and James Murphy helped on that one on the production, right?
on Law of Ruins,
On
yeah.
Law of Ruins. I'm trying to.
Yeah, he helped.
He ever
was
do anything else?
around-
That guy? Is that no?
He's gone on to some
lives
much
in-
bigger
I think
and
he-
better things for sure.
I think he lives in New York actually
Oh, okay, yeah.
these days. Yeah.
Should see what that guy ever got up to. Yeah.
I'll look him up on the internet.
Yeah. Does anyone know what this guy went into? Yeah. Anyway,
It's funny. It's
I'm
funny.
gonna drop
I
that
think-
bit, but
I think it's funny. Around that time, we were like, I'll tell you a little story. This last thing, I won't say anything more about this, but we had the parlor going, and we were like, we had just recorded Law of Ruins, and I got a phone call one day, and it was like the guy, this guy, he's like, hey, I'm in this band, New York, The Rapture.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we heard about your studio. We want to come up to Providence and record. And we had kind of like we had started taking the studio apart. We didn't have our 2-track, like our 2-inch machine anymore. And I was like, we don't have our machine, but there's this guy in New York named James Murphy. You should look him up. And I gave him his number.
amazing. That's fantastic. I love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe he already knew him, but, whatever. I knew him when.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's kind of I'm trying to what was he was in? What was that noise rock band that he was in? I'm trying to remember. It's been too long. Gone. That information's completely useless. James, he was in.
Speed King.
Speed King. Thank you.
Yeah.
I knew Speed King.
Yeah, we played a bunch of shows with them.
Yeah.
When they were playing, that's how we met him. Yeah.
We met him. We had met him before, like the Dung Beetle
Through New
guys in
York, Dung Beetle. Yeah.
Right.
Sleepyhead, all those people in New York, and
So, tell me about Half Control, because Half Control, like it was recorded earlier, right? It was recorded like more in the Law of Ruins ish post time around that area, like when
A year after, maybe a year or two after.
Sat around for a while.
Law of Ruins. John McClane left, and then we started playing with two dudes from not a local band, but a band Landed from Providence.
Yep. Legendary Landed, yep.
Joel Kayak and Sean Greenlee. And we kind of worked with them on some stuff, and it kind of was logical that we kind of tried something with those dudes, and it worked. So, that record was very stripped down and punk rock, in my opinion.
Yeah,
It's got a little bit of a bite to it.
Yeah, I actually listened to it for the first time in years this last week, because I knew I was giving you guys on, and I mean no offense by saying this. I was like, oh, I forgot about this. But I was like, oh, this is good. This is like really awesome. Like, what? How did I forget about this? And I don't know. It's just because I heard it so much later than all the rest of it or something. But yeah, no, was it Load did that one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, we recorded it like in 99, the strange years, the end of the 90s. And it kind of sat, I think we tried to mix it a couple times, and it sat in various stages of decay until whenever we put it out. I guess that was like 15 years ago now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it came out
longer.
8 years later or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So how does it? Yeah, it was a pretty big delay. I remember that, because it'd been like, oh, what is this, like a reissue? Because like
it's relative, man.
Yeah. Time's a flat circle.
Yep.
How does it all kind of wind down? Because it didn't seem like there was any big, from the outside perspective, any big. Well, wouldn't have been any social media announcement, because there's no such thing as social media. But like, how does it all wind down originally with 6 Feet Satellite? You're playing with the Landed guys. You got like that iteration of the band. Is it just? Yeah, either one of you. Either one of you.
Jay
you want
moved.
to take it?
I mean,
I moved west.
Jay got a family and stuff and moved, so things kind of dried up, people's priorities shift,
Yeah, life just changed a bit, and
life comes at you,
Rick,
man.
Rick kind of started playing with, had another whole other musical
other
career.
Things.
Second life. But I think like we always stayed in touch, right? And it was a bit of a pause, and then like in 2000 and whatever, when did we start doing the good year for Hardness? That
2009, maybe
2008.
Yeah.
So we just
So we did that record kind of almost remotely. Jay
Right.
was in Denver. The rest of us were in Rhode Island. And that record came together real easily, and we did it with people that we, knew and worked with in the past. So, it was just a real kind of natural groove record,
Yeah.
Somebody called it a classic rock record, which
I love that record. I listened to it recently.
I like it.
Yeah.
love
I
it.
mean,
Somebody
Sure.
else said I was trying to play like Keith Richards, which I kind of was. So,
well, there you go. All right.
I mean, shit.
It kind of like at the time, it kind of like it was always compared to what was always like not
Well,
not the band, not the band that it was, not the synth. It was not. It was always like I always found it to be described as the not, but I didn't really give a shit. It was always like I had a blast making it. It was fun It was fun recording. It was fun writing it. We went out and played a bunch of shows around it.
Yeah, I
which
remember.
were also moderately fun. Yeah,
But it's also
was
like it's not like you guys were doing a Ramones or something, Peace and Love. We're just like same thing. What you're gonna. It's like you buy an AC/DC record, you pretty much know what it's gonna sound like. It's gonna be like, oh no, this one. It's like they got crazy amounts of synths on this one. Oh, this one they're doing like a funhouse kind of krautrock thing. Like,
I think there's always a common thread going through all those records. Having kind of not even a handful, a few records that are notable.
Yeah.
Certainly not successful. Certainly not, well known. But people who know those records really hold them tight, And I appreciate that because we were like record collectors and music listeners that had that same kind of obsessive mentality, So I understand why people can look back on older records or incarnations and then hold the new stuff and be like,
no severe exposure. Yeah, well, it's a different record. I mean, of course it's not.
I'm like the worst guy for that band. I love their first record. I mean, I'm that fucking guy.
Sure.
So it, I understand.
Yeah.
But the thing that I think was common throughout all of Six Finger Satellite was the lineup always changed. We always challenged ourselves to kind of do something slightly different than the last thing, but also stay true to whatever we were listening to or, into at the time. I think that's a thread that has always gone through the band to this day. I mean, we have some new stuff now where we're working with Jay's brother, John Von Ryan, who was in Von Ryan's Express. He had a record out on Load Records too, back in the 90s. And this guy Dare Matheson, who did the artwork for the new Pigeon record. So we're doing
fantastic.
new stuff.
Yeah, we should. Which I want to get back to at some point, but yeah.
But I mean, it's the same thing. Like the stuff has a common, is following a common kind of path. And I think once the newer stuff sees the light of day, it'll just fit right into the whole scheme of things.
So
if you don't like it, I really don't give a fuck.
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, but it's. I feel like that the So you're speaking of it in present tense, which is to say that in your mind it's not like a closed set. It's something that there can be stuff in the future.
No,
right?
I mean, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we never put this to bed. Jay and I have been carrying the torch, for years. And occasionally we get people interested in putting something out, or doing something like Sub Pop with the reissue, maybe the severe exposure reissue. But to be in this thing for 30 plus years and to have somebody put up money to reissue a record that you recorded 30 years ago, it's pretty fucking awesome. It's pretty rad.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I said to Rick, I was like, hey, I think it was just a couple years ago, whatever. I was like, it's gonna be like 30 years for severe exposure. I mean, for Pigeon and 23. I said, I'm just gonna call Sub Pop and see if they're interested in reissuing it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I had deep relationships at Sub Pop. I got Jonathan Poneman's number. I hadn't talked to the guy in forever, and I called him up and he called me back, and I was like, interested in putting out, hey, how are you? Good to hear from you. Are you interested in putting out, reissuing Pigeon? And he was like, yep. And I was like, okay. He goes, call so-and-so and let's get it going.
Fantastic.
So I was like,
yeah.
All right, here we go.
Well, no, such welcome news for people like myself, our fans in here. This is not going to help for people listening on audio, but for the video folks, here's the screen share is got the really cool package, and again, it's never sounded better too, and that's
Bob Weston did the remastering on it, and I think he did an amazing job.
You could do a lot worse.
Yeah, and he
knows what
he
he's
was the
doing.
original. He was the original engineer for the record, so it only
That's
made
right.
sense,
Yeah.
You
I'm
mentioned
sure he remembered every note.
Right. So the cover, the cover is it's what was the story with the cover? Like, what's the difference?
Go ahead, Rick. You take this one.
The cover was, we used some older images, and we kind of wanted to bring it up to date a little bit.
Yeah.
We weren't really sure what we could do, so our friend Dare Matheson kind of redesigned the original big-eyed monsters.
Right.
And he does video game design, and he was working in virtual reality, so he did these things in kind of a three-dimensional aspect, and then lit it in like a film noir kind of thing, so it really brought out the kind of 50s big-eyed monster movie kind of thing. And exactly. Like Q Thereman now, and then we were able to kind of keep the stark design elements of just the white and the the block lettering and the thin lines and whatnot. Jeff Kleinsmith had a lot to do with the redesign of that, so Dare and Jeff really went crazy with this, and I think the package is just fantastic.
No, it's super cool. It's very interesting here. Let me do this just so people can get a closer look. Again, sorry for the audio listeners, we're throwing visuals on the screen here, but like it's a pretty. Yeah. Even if you have a copy of it, which I never had it in this format, I had it in a CD and a really crappy dub tape.
Well, that was one of the. Well, one of the confusing things about that record was, we were actually listening to a lot of Minutemen, and we were, digging those early SST bands and touch and go bands that would just do like EPs, like a 4 or 5 song EP.
Yeah, like the Joy EP or What Makes a Man Start Fires or something like that.
Right, right. So we were kind of playing off of that kind of thing, where we had the record be 2 separate EPs, the Idiot version and the Savant version.
Yeah.
With very similar art. One had, the whole concept was, the first one had one, image of an alien. The second one had an image of 2 aliens, and then the CD had an image of 3 aliens.
Yeah.
It made perfect sense.
That's a little puzzle for fans.
But I mean, even up until like maybe 5 years ago, I've talked to a lot of people who still didn't understand like that record. Like, I have this version, but what's the other version? Like, what, you know, like how does it fit? Like, they weren't
thinking
sure
that the
about
version.
vinyl.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay,
like the vinyl stuff. They were just like, is this the only record? Like, where's the rest of it or something? You know, and they didn't quite get the fact that
should be like, we mixed out the saxophone in this one. Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
No, like
so if you can buy them at the same time, put them in a bag, and keep them like locked together.
Yeah,
you know, they definitely went to the bargain bin, and they just, you know, they wound up as
you got to play them on two record players at the same time. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with this, we were able to kind of put them together, obviously, as one complete thought, and
Which I feel like there's more.
That's a convenience to our record buying public.
Yeah, there's more appetite for that now, right? I mean, I feel like there was a weird time period where I think the people that were still in the vinyl were still in the vinyl, like in the 90s, but now it's like even more so. But also, people are there's an affinity towards the record. They want to have like a nice package that comes with it too. And again, records never sounded better. I've heard this damn thing a million times. You know, like it's really like pronounced. Which isn't to say it sounded bad before, but just like, you know, this is serious business.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of love went into it.
Yeah. I'm you know, the fact that we made this record, you know, with the intention of it being on vinyl. I mean, at the time CD was not that new, but we were still, you know, we were making this music to fit on these, you know, these vinyl platters, you know. So for this reissue to come out and still have it on two 45 RPM 12 inches and to have them remastered and just sound even beefier, you know, like that was the other thing is the 45 RPM. You know, we were going off of the Pill second edition, I think.
Oh, sure.
Or the metal box.
The metal box.
No, the metal box has those songs. Yeah. You know, and when you slap on, especially back then, you know, it wasn't like, I keep fucking old, man. But, you know, when you slap on a 12-inch 45 RPM on your system with a good turntable and you put that on, man, the bass and the sound, you know, the frequency spectrum is just so much larger. Yeah. And it sounds so amazing. So we were trying to make sure that our music had that full-bodied essence to it, you know. And to have that, you know, redone and to have Bob remaster it and make it sound the way it does now, which I mean isn't drastically different, but it definitely has a little bit more girth.
Yeah, that's yeah. Well, there's some more. It kind of booms a little more. There's a little more heaviness to it.
It does. It does. Yeah.
And it is noticeable. And I think I want to attribute it to Steve Albini, but I think he said any record worth its salt, you should be able to play at the wrong speed and it still be good. So if you were to play the 45 at 33, it still sounds cool. It's just like when you hear the vocals come in, you're like, oh, well, that's the wrong speed. Exactly. They got doomy on this one. Kind of weird. Huh? Yeah.
Well, it's funny because when we recorded that record, the Pigeon record, you know, those tempos were pretty slow, like pretty mid-tempo-y. Yeah. And then when we took it on the road, you know, between the mania of being on the road and the mania of everyone being fucking maniacs, you know, the tempos were just crazy. We just transferred a live cassette recording of the final set that we recorded with the Pigeon lineup in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And the tempos, it's going to be funny. I mean, if anybody who gets the record checks out these live things that we put out, the tempos are like night and day. I mean, shit was just like
Larry was saying no so fast.
It's like It's like Rick throwing down the gauntlet. Like keep up.
I'm not sure.
All right, jerks. Catch up.
A little bit of that too,
like
I'm sure.
Racing to the end of the tour.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, all right, let's get the shit.
Sounds like you got an urgent appointment to get to after the show. Yeah. Yeah,
But it's really nuts because we jacked the living shit out of the tempos on those songs,
yeah.
and I think it works, because
Sure.
That's kind of a sort of a shitty musician trick is to speed things up to make it sound a little bit tighter,
Make it sound more exciting. Yeah.
and we were definitely trying to spruce things up on some of those shows for sure, prop things up, I should say.
Yes.
But it's interesting to see the arc from the recording to that last show,
Yeah.
and not knowing that was the last show, but
Well, and again,
it was-
coming back to it after all these years too, it just kind of like, maybe not being completely how could you can't ever be completely objective, but coming at it from some degree of distance, and it's got to be illuminating in a way, right?
I suppose
It
it was illuminating
it's run
at
me
the time.
It's run me through quite the range of emotions, honestly.
Sure. Okay. All right. Yeah.
But it's definitely like great to hear it in like in its remastered state. I mean, I always felt our records were a little thin on the low end, so it's good to hear it like that.
I think that was a trend, unfortunately, around the time, because
we were always requesting record cutters, like John Golden and those guys, Larry, who's the last guy in Memphis? Larry Nix. I mean, we were always trying to push that low end, and a lot of those guys at the time were just like, no, we're not gonna push it so the fucking record, skips off the fucking thing.
Right, exactly.
They were still going by what records sounded like,
Uh-huh.
leading up to the 90s. So there wasn't any
using
precedent
Jackson
for
Brown
how-
as a comparison or something. Right?
I also think it was like the way we sometimes the way we mix too.
Yeah. Well, that's that. When you DIY your recordings, there's gonna be a little lo-fi going on, no matter what kind of mics you got.
Yeah.
Or whatever, but hey,
Well, I
man,
think
we made the shit work, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds killer, and it's not like it didn't. I mean, because they're a record. I could call them out, but that'd be very rude. But there are records that I love that's like, this does not sound like a good recording, but I love it. I love everything about it. But I never felt that about Pigeon. Yet when I hear this remaster, it's like, oh no, that's better. This better represents what I think of this band as being.
Yeah.
And in a way, even though it's a record I'm very familiar with, like it's allows me to listen kind of with new ears too, which is lovely. That's other than people also buying it, that's kind of the ideal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hope people listen to it, or just enjoy it on vinyl, because it was just so hard to find or hard to put together for a lot of people.
Was pleased to hear the news, even more pleased to hear the thing. So I thank you guys for doing it. This has been great, man. Thank you guys so much for doing it.
Thanks for having us.
It's been an honor. I've been a fan for years, so I'm glad it all worked out. Anything else potentially on the horizon for Six Finger Satellite, since it's never really like the ship's never completely gone down?
Anything is possible at this point.
All right.
In this soft apocalypse.
It's a really mundane apocalypse. Nobody had this on their bingo card, but it's like, this is like the lamest apocalypse ever. Like it's stunningly, it's incredibly boring. Nobody had that. Everyone thought it was going to be
bored to
crazy.
tears. I'm bored to tears.
So last question. You fellas can choose to interpret this however you like. I'll go. Rick, you can go first on this one. But why do you do what you do?
Because it's kind of the only thing that makes me feel like a normal human that contributes to humanity. Everything else I do, not so much. So I try to continue to do it to keep myself sane and to keep the things that I don't particularly enjoy doing in perspective. Yeah. That's why I do it.
Jay?
similar. I mean, I think I do what I do. I mean, I think sometimes I just do what I do because I have to do it. Whatever.
Must do what must be done.
Exactly. I think I think it's just about as I get older, it's just like you just want to do good work. You want to do the right thing for people you care about. So that's kind of my motivation.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is the sense of communication and family between musicians, and the kind of unspoken language between musicians is just an amazing thing to me.
Yeah.
That is so enriching.
And I think when you find people that you can play music with and you have that kind of language. I mean, Rick and I won't see each other forever, and then we'll get together and jam, and it's like, hello, Rick.
Yeah.
Nice to see you again, kind of thing, right? So
it's like a vernacular or something.
Yeah, that's special, and the fact that kind of lives, and it's not about, I don't know, it's this kind of like unspoken language kind of thing that you have that you've just developed over time that just kind of continues on its own, and music is that medium for it. It's just really, it's great. So yeah.
Rick, Jay, thank you guys so much, man. Really appreciate you guys.
Right on.
Thanks for having us, dude.
Take care, brother. There they go. Rick and Jay, 6-Finger Satellite. Go get that reissue. I'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We're gonna play. We're gonna go out with a song. Here we go. This is High Low Jerk.
Today,
All right, there you go. A little 6-finger sideline for you, babies. Cool. I'd like to thank Rick and Jay for coming in. That was awesome. Appreciate those guys' time. And, go pick up that reissue of The Pigeon is the Most Popular Bird there on the Sub Pops, your local Sub Pops, everybody. Cool. Thank you so much for listening to the show. It is called Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Appreciate you listening to it. The show airs normally Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Streaming live on YouTube and Twitch. Archives always available for free. No ads, no sponsors, no kidding. ProtonicReversal.com. Always free. If you like the show and want to get episodes sooner, though, and you want to support the show, $1 a month at patreon.com/ProtonicReversal will achieve that goal. And if you like that show, the show in general, even a single episode, please feel free to like, subscribe on your platform of choice, share it around the internet, and even leave a review. All of that helps people discover the show. Beat back the almighty algorithmic overlords. And it's just a darn nice thing to do.
Anyone within the sound of my voice.
Thanks for everyone sharing those episodes around. Subscribing to your platform of choice. That's always helpful. Reviews. Only if they're 5 stars, though. That helps conspire the fire, as they say. Bunch of good stuff coming up. Stay tuned. Stay subscribed. Stay with it, man. What else? Stay safe out there.
Can you hear me now?
Check you later.
Out on Route 128, dark and lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on Earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency, hey! This is a real goddamn emergency!